All right. Well, this week we start with Shemot, which is also known as Exodus, chapter 25, verse 22. And in literal English, it would say, "And meet me to you there, and speak me with you from upon the lid," what they call in English the mercy seat, but actually it's just the word for lid. From between two, the number two, the keruvim, remember we talked about what that was, that upon chest, the testimony. All that command you to children, Israel. All right. So we start off with Benoad T. Oh, stop moving. And meet me. So it's either and I will meet with you or you will meet with me, right? But this is to point out, to define, to a point, especially a place, a time. If I didn't know better, it looked like that's part of the word for edah. Oh, that's why they're saying point out a place and a time. Yep, that's from the root edah. I just now realized that. So anyway, it's a meeting place. A meeting place, and it says lecha, to you, or with you, if you will. Sham, I will meet you there. This is a meeting place. There will be set times. That's the idea behind the word edah. This is Sham, of course, that's there, in that place. I will meet you in that place at specific times. Then it says, ve dibarti, and speak me, and I will speak is the way we would say it. But this is setting in a row, ranging in order to lead, to guide, especially to lead flocks and herds, to rule, to direct the people. So he's going to give us guidance. He's going to speak the words that will show us what to do and how to do it. These words will subdue us. And that's a good thing when God's doing it. He's not going to lay snares against us. As there's always a positive and a negative in Hebrew words. And so the opposite of to speak with us and to lead us would be to slay and snare and all that. And they do use this word in the negative too, but this is, of course, is in the positive. This is itecha, with you. So I will give you these words. I will speak with you. These words will lead you. They will guide you. They will even subdue you. All right, this is me'al, then that's from upon. Right? So on top of something, ha ke poret. That's the lid. Because they were told to make the chest, right? What they call the ark. They were told to make the chest. They were told to overlay it on the outside in gold and overlay it on the inside with gold. And then they were told to make a lid, kaporet, the lid, the top piece, out of solid gold. So now he's saying, I'm going to speak to you these words that will lead and guide and all of that sort of thing from on top of the lid, right? And then it says, mibain, from between, so there's going to be something on each side, right? Shene, from between two, ha-ke-ruvim, from between the two, ke-ruvim. Just to remind you, they say cherub in English, right? The ke-ruvim, you hear cherub there. A creature with four faces, the face of a man, of a lion, of an eagle, of an ox, in one place, and then it's the face of a man, of a cheruv, of a cherub, a lion, an ox, and an eagle. So there's a little confusion there because in the Ezra's account, he says it two different ways. We have no way to know which is which, as far as I know. So he's saying he's going to meet you, he's going to speak to you from between the two of them, which starts a whole argument about, because in the one sense, it sounds like God is sitting on top of the wings, and the lid is where he has his feet. And now it sounds like he's saying that he's going to talk to you from between the two, which would be under the wings, right? And so that starts a whole bunch of argument, and we'll get to that. Then it says Asher, which Ruvim, which are all upon. You know, the Hebrew word upon is, you say all, not A-L-L, just A-L. We're going to transliterate it. But so it's upon Aaron, upon the chest. So here we've gone from between the two Keruvim to upon the chest. So it's between the cherubims. It strikes me funny because Keruvim is Keruv. The Keruv is singular, Keruvim is plural, and they say cherubim, right? So that's the word for Keruvim. So they want to make it plural in English, so they say cherubims and put an S on the end. And so that's a double plural. Does that make it singular? Just saying. But anyway, it's the two, whatever these creatures are, that are on the chest itself. Now, they're not on the chest, are they? They're on the lid. Anyway. Ha'edut. Now, that's the testimony. That's where the 10 Commandments are written and whatever else is written on there. Because remember, these are two tablets of stone that were written on the front and the back. And believe me, you don't need the front and the back of a stone this big, two of them, to write 10 Commandments. I'm just saying. So there's probably a lot more there. Just a thought, just throwing it out there. But that is what he's talking about. It's written there. And also, Moshe wrote all this stuff on some kind of skin. It may have been lamb skin. It could have been deer skin. It doesn't specify, but he wrote a lot of this down on that sort of thing. So that would have been in there as well. And it would have been, as it would have also been the testimony, because this is something that witnesses to what the agreement was. So it's not just the tablets, or it could be just the tablets if that's all there was. But if there's more in there, then it's the tablets and the maybe he used parchment. They did have something, I guess, papyri. They had I was trying to say it's like parchment, but what they had papyri at the time. He could have written something on that. They had skins. He could have written something on that, and we do know that there was something written on tablets, right? So all of that would be part of it if it's in the same place. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. This is et, which is the pointer, has no meaning. Kol, this is the one that means all and everything. Asher, so that everything that azaveh, that command, everything that is commanded, everything that's set up, everything that's constituted, everything that's appointed, all the decrees, all of the laws, all of that stuff is part of it, right? Ot ha, everything that I have commanded you. And then it says el, which is the word to, bene, to the children. And then it's going to say Yisrael. So you have, in translation, remember this is verse 22, and I will meet you there, and I will speak with you from the Rapot. I got that spelled wrong. No, Haporet. Is that how that was spelled? I don't recall it being spelled that way. Let me make sure. Looks like my spelling's wrong. I want to check something out. How far back was this? I have Keporet. And what was this? Haporet? That wouldn't even make any difference. But let's make sure that that's what I have. Yeah, we're good. Haporet. That's the top of the thing called the mercy seat. That's the lid. So I will meet you there, and I will speak with you from the Haporet or the Keporet. It's the same thing. between the two keruvim, between the two creatures that are on the chest, with the testimony of all that I command you before the children of Yisrael. So of the words, and I will speak with you from the chaporet, or keporet, from the lid. Vayikra, that's Leviticus 1:1, says that the Lord called to Moshe from the tabernacle. There was obviously some argument given to show a perceived mistake, in that here the Lord speaks from the top of the mercy seat, while in Leviticus, Vayikra, he spoke from the tabernacle. So I'm not actually seeing the argument. I've seen the arguments about the arguments, but I'm not actually seeing the arguments. I'm sure that it's there somewhere, but I haven't seen that. So what I'm trying to tell you is, an argument came up. Oh, look, there's a mistake in the text. One place he's speaking from the mercy seat, and the other place he's speaking from the tabernacle. Rashi and even Ezra both argued that there was no mistake, since the mercy seat, the keporet, the lid, was actually inside of the tabernacle. So if he's speaking from that place, isn't it in the tabernacle? Right. So it's a silly argument, but it was obviously something that was being argued in their time. Moving on to 23, it says, and make you table trees shittim, cubits length it, and cubit width it, and cubit and half height it. So it says, ve'asita, and you will make properly. It's to labor, to work about, to make, to produce by labor, to manufacture, to fabricate. You get the idea, right? Hopefully you do. Although I suppose somewhere, somehow, someone who's never actually made anything, maybe not, wouldn't get it, right? So make, what are we going to make? Shulchan. That's the Hebrew word for table, so called from its being extended and spread out. So make a table. Atzeh. Table, and now it's saying trees. It can be used of wooden posts. It can be used of slats. It's generally used for the word wood, but it really is literally trees. So you're going to make it of some kind of wood, shittim. That's the sort of tree. It's a large tree growing in Egypt and Arabia, having the bark covered with black thorns. It has blackish pods. The wood is very hard, and when it grows old, it resembles ebony, which is a black color. All right, so you're going to make this out of this sort of tree. It's very specific. That's the kind of wood it's supposed to be built from. Then it says amatayim. So that's cubit in plural, cubits. And that's it's a length. It's a specified length. It's figured that nobody actually knows for sure, but they think it's about 18 inches, because they believe that a cubit is from the elbow to the tip of the finger. And on the average man of the time, of this particular time, was about 18 inches. But it's an educated guess, and as educated guesses go, it's a pretty good one. It's going to be close, but we don't know if it's actually a sitar. I'll help myself out. Anyway, moving on to the next word. Arku, rather. It could be hu. You do realize that hu and ku are the same thing, right? Anyway, so its length will be cubits. Not cubit, but cubits. And if you remember from last week, or from the last episode, they settled on 2, right? I mean, cubits could be 150 million cubits, right? I'm just saying. If they settle on 2, it's going to be its length. Then it says va'ama, and cubit. Now it's just going to say 1, and cubit. That's a single, or achbo, is the width of it. So it will be 1 cubit wide. So it really wouldn't make sense to make it 100,000 cubits long and 1 cubit wide, right? And it'd be really weird. So the assumption is, since it's 1 wide, then obviously it's, when it says cubits in plural, they mean 2 cubits. But again, that can be argued. Then it goes on, va'ama, and cubit, va'chetzi, that's and half, so it's a cubit and half. Komato, that'll be the height of it. So you've got 1 cubit, 2 cubits, 1.5 cubits. Got it? Good. Do your translation, and you will make a table of shittim trees, 2 cubits long, 1 cubit wide, and 1.5 cubits high. Pretty simple, right? In his commentary on Exodus, Cassuto said, in Mesopotamia, they would arrange on the table the foods that had been prepared as a meal for the gods, such as boiled or roasted flesh, placed in dishes or plates, loaves of bread, jars of wine, milk and honey, and various kinds of fruit, recalling the tables set before kings. The Egyptians practiced similar customs in the worship of their gods, and the other peoples of the countries of the East did likewise. In the Israelite view, it was not only inconceivable to associate concepts of eating and drinking in their material sense with the conception of divinity, but it is related even of a human being like Moshe, or Moses as he said, that when he drew near to the divine spear, he neither ate bread nor drank water. The parts of the sacrifice that were set aside for God were not prepared by boiling or roasting, and were not placed in dishes or plates upon the table, but were burned on the altar in the sanctuary courtyard, as though the only way to bring them near to the deity was to turn them into vapors and odor. How do you say that? I mean, odor. O-D-O-U-R. Odor. I know that. I'm just. It's the word odor. We say odor now. We take the U out. Exceedingly fine matter and without substance, which are dispersed in the air and ascend heavenward. My typing was horrible on this. Now let me add this. The sweet-smelling savor as the offering, not the vaporizing of meat. What I'm trying to say is they were not trying to get the meat to God by turning it into a vapor. What the offering was not the meat. The offering was the sweet smell of the meat rising up to God. That was the actual offering. Okay, let's go to 24. And overlay it you with it gold pure, and make you to it edge gold round about. Sounds familiar. Bet zipita, and overlay it you. So, and you will overlay it. And that was that word that was to shine, to be bright, and had a wide view. Metaphorically used to prophets who, like watchmen, declare future events as being divinely revealed. And, it's hard to understand. Why? Because it's idiomatic. It's not supposed to be literal. So it turns into overlaying it because they understand the idiom. This is oto, so that's with it. Overlay it with zahav, gold. So you could say, make it bright with gold. That would be a correct translation. Make it shine with gold. That would be a correct translation. So you understand the word to shine, to be bright, and all of that. You see why they're using that, but we see it as to overlay it with gold, because you've already been told to make it of wood, very specifically shittim wood. So now we're going to make it shine, or overlay it, as it were, with gold, zahav. Tahor, pure gold, by the way. So smelt that gold and get all the impurities out. Then it's ba'asita, and make you. Remember that? Properly, to labor, to work, about, to make, to produce, to manufacture, to fabricate. So now you make it, build it. Lo, to it, zer, to its edge, to make a border, zahav, of gold, saviv, round about. So surround its borders with gold. This could be anything. You can take thin gold and braid it, make a nice little border, but this is all of its borders needs to have this braiding on it. Or it can be, flat bar that has little indentations put in it, or it could be anything. It makes no difference. You're just supposed to put a gold border around it. So your translation then becomes, and you will overlay it with pure gold, and you shall make the edges of gold all around it. So every edge needs to have this gold. So moving on to 25. Literally in English, it's, and make you to its borders width round about, and make you edge gold to border it round about. Must really be important. Starting to catch that. Ve'asita, to make, properly, to labor, to work about, to make, to produce, to manufacture, to fabricate. Right? So you're going to make, what are we going to make? Lo, make to it. Misgeret, make to its borders, its edges. That's really all you really need to know. Topach, that's the width. Then it says savi. We've already had that word that's around it. Ve'asita, and you will make. You're saying that word twice in the same sentence, so you know what that does. It's amplifying. It's like putting an exclamation point on it. Zer, that's the edge. Make the borders of its edges, or the edge of its borders, the way we would say it. Zahav, gold. Lemis garto, to its border. Saviv, around it. So what do we have? We have, and you will make the edge the width of a hand. Wait a minute. Where did a hand come from? I missed one somewhere. Got distracted. Sorry about that. Let me move back up here. That's going to be important. It must be the word for edge. To its borders, width, that's round about, you will make zer. So they've taken the word zer, the edge, the border, and they've turned that into hand, and I fell into that. There must be a reason for it, but I don't remember it now. I don't agree with this. You will make the edge, the width. I'm going to have to back up here a second. I do apologize. I thought I had this figured out when I did this. Oh, width. Here we go. It's from the word topach, the width. I just took it as width. Properly, the open hand, the palm, used as the measure of 4 fingers, a hand's breadth. We now know a hand's breadth is 4 fingers. I'll be darned. I missed that altogether. So now I agree with my translation. I was like, where did that come from? I don't even remember. And you will make the edge the width of a hand around it, and you shall make the borders of gold all around it. So he's repeating the previous, make it out of gold. 26, and make you to it 4 rings, gold, and give you the rings upon 4 of the corners, that to 4 feet his, or its. His and its, the same thing. Va'asita, you guys know that word by heart now? To labor, to work about, to make, to produce, to manufacture, to fabricate. So the word asa, by the way, the root. Lo, make to it arba, 4 tabaot, 4 rings. So it's going to be round things. It can literally be a ring like on your finger. I actually have them on this week. It can be a ring like that. It can be, just a big round ring. Any kind of ring. Just make a round ring. It has to be round, though, or it won't be a ring. Because it's going like that. So you make the ring zahav of gold. Vet natata, and place. Now, nata, or natan, that's where we get the word Nathan. That's to give, to cause, to receive, to place in someone else's hand. But it's also, remember in Hebrew, this is a language with fewer words having lots more meaning. Where in English, we have a lot more words with less and less meaning. And that's why these words that we have in English can morph and change so much over time. Where in Hebrew that didn't happen, because your one word could cover so many different things. So if it's to put in the hand, if it's to give to somebody, they're going to use this of the idea of to establish, to set, to place, to put something. It's to set someone over any person or thing, to impose anything upon anyone as a yoke, a fine, a law. So to establish a law is to give a law. To give a law is to establish a law. Hopefully that helps you understand that. Then this is et, which is the pointer. Ha tabaot, the rings. So place the rings, the Hebrew word al, which we know means upon. Arba, 4, ha peot, the 4 corners. It's a quarter. They say the 4 winds, the 4 corners of the earth, the 4 corners of your talit, right? Because in this case, we're talking about the 4 corners. There's a note here. Jewish doctors rightly explain in Leviticus 19:27 and 21:5, it was prohibited to shave them, and the Arabian nations shaving them, like the Egyptians, are called in reproach ketzuzeh pe'at, men with the whiskers cut off. Because remember it said not to shave the 4 corners. And so you're talking about, anyways, there's another note. Men who did this beginning in the late 1700s and through the 1800s were called bald-faced liars. Men who shaved their faces, because we were told not to shave the corners, the edges, the corners, right? So there's all kinds of things that come about that. And a lot of people try to say, well, bald-face, the term bald-faced liars came from here and came from there and was not seen before the 1800s and stuff like that. But not exactly true. The people who lived according to God's law lived according to the truth, as it were. And so if you shaved your face, you did not live according to the truth. That made you a liar. And since you shaved your face was considered bald. So you were called a bald face liar. That's where that actually comes from Judaism. So, but that comes about in part because the peot, the corners, the edges, and in this case it's 4 edges. Your face does not have 4 edges. So why would you say the 4 corners of your face? Why would you say the 4 corners of your clothing. You don't have four corners on your clothing. Oh, maybe it's the sleeves and the legs, right? The openings of the legs. No, when they say the four winds, are there really just four winds? Does the wind only blow north, south, east, and west? No, it doesn't. If it's saying the four winds, the four corners of the earth, which a round ball does not have corners, right? What they're actually saying is idiomatic. They're saying all of it. So when you're told to wear zitzot in the four kanaf, the four corners of your talitot, of your these things, it doesn't actually say talitot. It says in the four corners of your garments, right? So if you're supposed to do that, are they telling you that you now have to wear an oblong thing like this and have four? No, they're saying that you're supposed to have the zitzot, this part right here. Let's see if I can get it on the camera. This little thing you hear bouncing up and down. Can you see it? The fringe. An English word. You're supposed to have that on everything you wear. Or, another way you could do it, you could make them portable like I do so that you can put it on everything you wear. It doesn't have to be literally, physically, and permanently attached to everything. It just has to be on there when you wear it, right? So when it's saying wear four, it's not telling you that you now have to wear something that has four corners so that it can have four zitzot or four fringes hanging from it. That is not what they're saying. They are saying all of it. So when it's saying hapeot, you got the same thing happening. All of it. The four corners. Everything. Just keep that in mind. Le'arba, to four raglav, four, that's feet. To the 4 feet. So your translation, and you will make 4 rings of gold, and you will place the rings on the 4 corners at its 4 feet. On the 4 corners. Now, since this thing actually is something with 4 corners, you can take that literally. But let's say you decided to go artistic, because think about this just a minute. God did not say that this couldn't be an octagon shape. He only said that the length of it had to be a certain length, the width of it had to be a certain width, and the height of it had to be a certain height. That's all God said. So is it not possible that you can make a complete circle that's width is this, well, it might not be a circle. What do you call that when it's a stretched out circle? Oval, yeah. So in this case, it would be an oval because of the dimensions. But if you take an oval, it can be the exact width it's supposed to be, length, the exact width, and the exact height. But it can still be round. Or if you do an octagon, you can do it exactly the same way. It's got a certain width, a certain length, a certain height. So I'm trying to expand your minds here a little bit. It's saying on its corners. It doesn't have to have just 4, except in this case, rings on 4 corners. If you're only going to make 4 rings, then you're only going to have 4 corners. So yeah, this one's going to have to be taken literally. You follow what I'm saying? But it doesn't mean that an oval shape can't have 4 legs. It doesn't mean that an octagon shape can't have 4 legs. So its actual shape does not have to be, it's not a square, it's a rectangle. It does not have to be a rectangle. I'm just saying, just expand your mind here. Let's make it fancy. All right, so verse 27. Literally, English would be, corresponding to the borders shall be them the rings to houses, to staves, to bear the table. Okay. Le'umat. It's, why would they say conjunction? I guess this one's a I like corresponding. That's probably our best English word for it. It's not really, but it'll work. Hamis geret. So corresponding to what? What is that? That's on its borders, on its edges. Tiya'an. There will be, there shall be, you will be hatabaot. 4 rings. So there's going to be 4 rings. We're not going to put 8 rings. We're not going to put 16 rings. We're going to put 4. On its edges, there's going to be 4 rings. Levatim. Now, literally, that's 2 houses. 2 T-O houses, not T-W-O, not like the number 2, but to its houses, if you will. A movable house, to a tent. What's a tent? What? Dwelling place. Levadim, that's 2 T-O, staff. Stabs, because it's in plural. Those are those sticks you hold up, right? Then it says laset, and that's literally T-O, to bear, to lift up, to take up, because it's from the word asa. It's a bearing. Something's going to lift it up. It'll make sense in a minute. Then it's et ha-shulchan, the table. So the table. Now, this sounded just like the ark, didn't it? I started getting confused for a minute there, thinking I was talking about the ark. But remember, shulchan, the table. So even the table is going to have 4 rings. And that 4 rings is going to have stabs that go through it so that you can pick the table up with the stabs. So you're not going to be grabbing the lid, you know, the edges of a table like you would in your house to move it around. It's going to be picked up with the stabs. So 27, alongside the borders shall be the rings for housing the stabs to lift up the table. So now does house make sense to you? That's why it was in plural. In Hebrew, when they put something in plural, it's a lot of times it's the ing, if you will, in English ending. So shall be the rings for housing the stabs. That's, you put the rings there, you slide the stabs in, and that's where the stabs dwell. The housing for the stabs. You guys get it, right? To verse 28. And make you the stabs, trees, sheetim, and overlay it you with them gold, and lift up in them the table. So here it's telling you you're going to lift the table up like what I just said. Ba'asita, I can hear everybody saying it, to labor, to work about, to make, to produce, to manufacture, to fabricate, right? Everybody's got that, right? We're using this word a lot. So we're going to make something. What are we going to make? Do tell. Et habadim, the staves. These are long sticks. They use it in branches of trees. The tree goes up and has all the sticks that go out. They call them staves, right? This is the word they use. But we think of them as straight, right? Well, that may not necessarily be true, because in their world, the shepherd almost always had a crooked staff. And particularly, they like to have a hook on that staff. And you can, if you look around, you can find sticks that are shaped that way so that they can hook the neck of their sheep and kind of pull them over where they need them to be. Oh, that's awful. Call PETA. Is that what it's called, PETA? Hey, it's no different than putting a leash on the thing. It's just a temporary leash. I'm just saying. So anyway, we think of them as straight. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. You would think probably if they're picking up this table with it, it probably was. But we don't know this. And there's no rule here. It doesn't have to be straight. Maybe there's a hook, you know, a loopy part that goes through and loops at the rings. Who knows? Boy, it'd be hard to find 2 sticks like that, wouldn't it? With, you know, hooky parts at just exactly the right spot. Boy, that'd be something. Although, since you're making it of that wood, you could, you know, cut it into slats, glue it together, take a jigsaw and You could do all kinds of things, right? Because it doesn't have to be natural. So it's of the Atzeh, of the trees of Shittim, of the Shittim trees. Remember, that's the black, hard, ebony black wood with the spikes on the outside while it's alive. Bet zipita, and overlay it. Remember, that's to shine. Make it shine. Make it pretty. Overlay it. Otam. That's literally with them. So overlay those things with zahab, gold. Then it says nisa, and that's from asa, to take up, to lift up, to carry away, to lift it up. All right, you realize that's what they're saying, right? So you're going to make the stabs to lift up vam in them at hashulchan, the table. So now you're very specifically being told that the table is going to be lifted up and carried away by the stabs that go through the rings. They're literally saying it this time. They implied it in the past verse, and they literally say it in this one. This is common Hebrew literature. That's the way they write. They give you the overview, and then they give you the details. To verse 28. And you will make the stabs from shittim trees, and you will overlay them with gold, and they will lift up the table. You could have even said they will lift up and carry away the table. It would still be correct. All right, so let's go to 29. And make you dishes its, and palm its, and jar its, and bowls its, that it pour out in them gold pure you shall make with them. I think if you read that several times, you could pretty much get it. But this one starts again. Ba'asita. Anybody want to venture a guess at what that word means? To labor, to work, to manufacture, to produce, to fabricate, right? So now we're going to make something else. Ke'arotiv. Dishes, bowls, plates, cups, all of that stuff kind of falls under that. Then it says vechapotai, and palm its palm, that which is curved, which is hollow. It's the palm of the hand. It's the curved part, right? Which is why they call a palm tree, because of its shape is like the palm of a hand. Rarely it's even used of the whole hand. It's of the sole of the foot, because you're supposed to have an arch there, even though some of us old people don't anymore. A hollow vessel, so that can be a cup, it can be a pan, it can be a bowl, all kinds of things. But you get the idea that there's a curvature here, right? You're going to make these things. You're not just going to make them flat. You're going to make a curve in them. Then it's ukesotai, and it's jars or it's cups, or both. They fall under this. Then it's umenakiyotai, and bowls. So it's bowls. Asher, that yusach, it pour out. That they pour out. So that's why in the bowls they add that it's the bowls for libation, because you're going to put it in these bowls and you're going to pour it out of the bowls, and that's why they have to have the palm, the roundy part. They use this particular word yusach for revenge, to take vengeance, to be angry, and all that kind of stuff, because it's the pouring out of the anger, but it's also the idea of pouring out water from a cup, the wine from a jar, whatever. I guess a jar really is kind of an old word. They use, if you can think of what's that thing you put wine in? Carafe? Cousin of the giraffe? No. Anyway, that kind of thing would have at one time in our world been called a jar. Okay, so that's why it says jar, because this thing was written in the 1850s. This thing I get my information from. This is bahen, in them. Zahab, gold, tahor. So in them, pure gold, ta'aseh, you will make. That's the fabricating and all that stuff. Oh, Tom is your last word with him. So here's your translation. And you will make its curved dishes and its hollow cups and its bowls with which they will pour out. You shall make them of pure gold. So this stuff's not going to be overlaid with gold. It's going to be made of pure gold. Pretty cool. Of the words, you will make its curved dishes, Kasuto said, according to the simple meaning of the text, vessels similar to those in which the priests of the pagan temples put the portions of meat for the meals of the gods. But in the Israelite sanctuary, the dishes were to remain empty as a symbol only. They never put anything in them or on them. They were left empty. He also added from chapter 30, verse 9, that there were no libations inside the sanctuary. Further, he said, in antiquity, it was customary also in private houses to leave the vessels on the tables permanently, unlike the present practice of putting them away in cupboards. So there's something very similar here, right? And I want to say something about this. There are some that believe that they read this stuff in the Bible and they're like, oh, yeah, see, God's trying to correct this pagan practice, and God's trying to correct that pagan practice, and God's trying to correct this. No. That has nothing to do with this. God was here before everything. God decided what was right and wrong before anything was created. God had already decided all of this stuff. The Torah has been here since God has been here, because the Torah is God's lifestyle. It's what God decided is right and what is wrong. And whatever God decided, that's good with me. Hopefully it's good with you, right? So all of this stuff that's right and wrong existed before this planet ever existed. So God's not trying to correct anybody else. I believe that when God first created man, the knowledge of right and wrong was in him. And when man was exited from the garden, as time went on, all of that stuff began to fade away. And so what's happening? They start off knowing what is right. They should have dishes, and those dishes should be left empty. But eventually they say, like, well, why don't we use those dishes? Let's put something on those dishes, right? So it's becoming, over time, it's becoming perverted. And God's not correcting anybody. He's just saying this is the right way, as opposed, so everybody else that's doing it a different way is doing it what we like to call the wrong way, right? But he's not trying to correct anybody. He's just telling us what the right way is. We don't need to make these comparisons. It's not important. What's important is we understand the right way. Just saying. All right. Do we have enough time? Yeah, this is a short one. We might have enough time to pack one more in. In verse 30, and give you upon the table bread faces to faces continually. All right, so it starts off, then natata. Remember that? Natan, the given, to place in the hand. So now you're placing something. You're going to put something in some place. You're going to establish upon or put upon ha-shulchan. Now he's just told you how to make it. He's told you to cover it in gold. He's told you to put the rings on it and put the stabs through the rings. And now he's saying, and then he said, make all of these nice little dishes and niceties and whatnot. And you've done all of that. And now what I want you to do is put on the table. Well, what's he going to tell you to put on it? Lechem. Bread. But that's also the word for food. I mean, when people say, hey, let's get together and break bread, they don't really mean let's get together and take a piece of bread and break it, do they? They mean let's get together and eat some food, right? And lechem means exactly that. It can be food. It's generally a bread because in their world, in that time, bread was mainly what you ate. Eating meat, that was exorbitant. That was expensive. That was something you did very rare, unless you were just, filthy rich, and then you could do whatever you wanted to. But the average man could not afford to eat, much more than bread all the time, if you know what I'm saying. And they didn't have freezers and ice boxes and freeze drying and all of that other stuff. So when they got the crops in, that maybe while green beans are in season, session got in my head and I couldn't get it out. While that's in season, maybe they're having green beans a lot. You know what I'm saying? But that's not in season for a long time, right? Anyway. Then it says panim. That's pana, the face, in plural. So it's faces, the part that's turned toward anyone. Like I said, it's of the root pana, to turn oneself in order to go anywhere, to turn to put your attention on, to. And then it says la panai, to faces my. So faces to my faces, right? Remember, we don't say faces about God. We don't say God's faces. Remember, Elohim is God's in plural. And when you talk about God's face, you say panim, because it's real simple. You say it in plural when they're alive. You say it in singular when they're idle. It has nothing to do with the Trinity. It has nothing to do with the duality. It has nothing to do with any of that stuff. It just means that we're talking about a live God, or at least, at the very least, a God that's perceived to be alive, right? Of course, you know us, it's our God, so he is alive. I'm just saying. Tami, continually. Sound like something else you've ever heard, Tami? It's perpetuity, continuance, so-called from proceeding, going on, continually. So continually is really your word here. So the translation is, and you will place on the table bread. Literally it says faces to faces, right? It's an idiom. And you will place on the table the bread in my presence continually. So you got two things going on here. One, God just told you he's going to be in your presence continually. And so since it's going to be in your presence continually, he wants that bread on that table continually. Casuto added that it was bread placed before God as a symbol and was replaced periodically by fresh bread, according to Leviticus 24, 5 through 9. And as some of you know, this was the bread that the priest ate. It was literally for them to eat. It wasn't for God to eat. It was for them to eat. So when it was time to switch out the bread, they ate it. So obviously they didn't leave it there until it turned bluish green. I'm just saying. All right. Well, that's as far as I can go this week. We will pick up with verse 31 next week. Shalom, shalom, y'all.